It was like checking connection. You are now live. So I am now live. I am now live. Yes, English is a bastard language. So I'm going to give it a minute in case people want to get her and just ready myself. As you see, I'm wearing my whites. I got my elekes on. Well, eleke. And if you have been wondering if I'm wearing all white because I've initiated, I have not initiated. I am a student of, primarily a student over a practitioner of Ifa, but I'm not initiated. So I just wear white because I happen to think that as a woman and as a black person / person of color, because I am only 78% melanated, which is the majority, obviously, but I honor all my ancestors. So that's funny. I was like, I honor all my ancestors, and then I forgot what I was going to say. Ifa. So yeah, I'm not initiated, but I wear all white just because I think that as I said, as a woman and a black person, that when you wear all white, people tend to think, especially if they're like interesting whites or nice whites, people always think you're affiliated with something. They don't understand why anyone would wear white because it's so difficult to keep it clean, right? But that's why you're so careful, and that's why motherfuckers are careful around you. And a personal belief that I have, actually, is that if all black people just wore white for a year, there would be less murders, because if you get shot wearing white, motherfuckers know what was done to you, okay? Immediately. So I don't know if I'm going to have anyone on here. I don't know if 7 p.m. is the time to really get live questions, which is fine because channeling doesn't actually require me to have anyone on here. What I will say initially is sort of just introduce what's going to go on, and then I'll let the message come. And if anyone joins, they join. And if not, you can send me questions afterwards, especially if you have any questions about what I channel. But if you have any questions that sort of came up in the midst of listening for you that don't necessarily have to do with what I'm channeling, then you can ask me those too, because obviously they're associated with this. So channeling, I think, for a lot of people has different meanings, and for me, I did think of it as one thing for a time, which is when you know that you are connecting with a particular energy and you are living in existence in such a way as to make yourself an amplifier and container able and conduit able person for that energy, and therefore you have a personalized relationship that is established that then allows you to become a channel, a regular amplifier of that energy. And so I understood that a lot in terms of, sort of, like, okay, you got like Abraham Hicks, you have Bashar, who I volunteer for and work for essentially, and you have other kind of channels, right? Edgar Casey channel, Joan Grant channeled, all kinds of people in indigenous traditions channel. Hi, you're my only guest right now, but I'm still talking about channeling. So come or go, I won't take it personal. So a lot of indigenous people also channel in shamanic traditions, in such things like that. So I understood channeling as either bringing in some sort of energy up or down through you, and also as writing, automatic writing, also as automatic writing or automatic talking, which is more my kind of channeling, right? Which it might be somewhat more in alignment with Abraham Hicks or like a Bashar, but I haven't quite gotten to the level where I have that ongoing connected relationship with a different kind of energy where I could call myself that kind of channel, which is why I'm doing this, because I think the more that people ask me questions, and by the way, there's a little question box right there with question marks on it. Hi. Hello, Kador. There should be on most, if you updated your Instagram, by the comment box, there should now be a little question mark box, and that question, anybody can ask me, and it can be anonymous, and you can send that at any time. But in the meanwhile, I'm just going to start telling you some information, as I've already been. So, channeling, yeah. So I decided to start doing lives, and in fact, for a little while, I was going to do it where I met with friends of mine. I was going to do it in a closed environment, right? I was going to meet with friends of mine, and I was going to have a collection of people that I knew ask me questions, and I was going to see if I could do it and then come out. But the way my schedule works and the way the schedule of all my homies work is just, I'm never going to be in the room with them for that purpose. Usually we are like squeezing time out just because so many of us are connecting to so many different places and people. And, you know, whatever, it's the age of Aquarius. We're very in that flavor. But so I just decided to go live so that anybody could utilize it, and also so that I don't have these sort of set up ideas or biases or previous knowledge of the persons who are asking me this question, which will also make it more clear to me what voice is coming through, what the messages are. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily easier to read for a stranger than it is to read for someone that I know. I think that when the reading is going, it's going to come whoever you are. But I think that I am more verified in my understanding when strangers ask me questions, because then I know, I'm like, how the fuck did I know? I don't know that motherfucker from Adam or Eve or the motherfucker in between called You didn't know what I was going to do, and neither did I about that. Hey, cousin. Oh my God, I got family on the line. So again, I'll repeat, and unfortunately, usually you can like post up a question, but I wasn't prepared like that. So there's a little question mark box by the comments, and if you have a question, you can ask it, and I'll answer it anonymously. So I already have a question. That question is, can anyone channel? I say everyone is channeling in the astrophysical or metaphysical realm. I would say that you are channeling your spirit through your body. So, you know, when anyone passes, hummingbird outside, when anyone passes, you're the thing that mobilizes the meat, peace and blessings to you too, the thing that mobilizes the meat body, because we're made of meat, this is why we're so tasty to animals and cannibals, the thing that moves through the body leaves, right? So that thing you're channeling all the time. You're channeling your own personality. You're channeling who you believe you are. You're channeling your identity as it is to you in the moment from whatever perspective you're having it from. And obviously that evolves over time, right? But there are various kinds of channeling. So if you're asking about channeling like Abraham Hicks or Bashar or Edward Casey or any of those people, then in that case, I think that it takes a practice. You know, you got to do what I'm doing, for instance. You need to, or do what I said. Put yourself in a room with friends that, you know, are not going to make it more difficult than it probably already be, meaning they'll be open to the possibility of you really coming with some messages. And then see what there is to see. Because, right, whenever, for instance, no one was on this live when I first started, so I was just talking. I was like, whatever, I'm just going to talk about what comes to me. I have created a practice of speaking to people now that I understand when a message is coming through me. But I had to talk to enough people about what they were asking me or what I was getting in order to really establish that sort of understanding for me with me. So that's why I'm saying you already channel your own personality, because you're already negotiating with what you do and don't think is possible. And so that is going to always be the defining limitation on how you are able to show up for being a conduit and being things like that. Do I think that genealogy research gets your ancestors' attention, makes them more likely to try and contact to send messages to you? My bad, I didn't mean to put your message on blast. I couldn't see the whole thing if I didn't open it. I know it does. Okay, so now that I have some peeps in here, hell, I might lose you guys with some of this information, but we just gonna see what we can all handle in this room, okay? So, the nature of existence is to exist. That's all it can do. Non-existence is non-experiential, right? Because existence is experiential. Non-existence would be non-experiential. Therefore, you wouldn't know that it happened to you because it doesn't exist. So considering that, we know that because existence's nature is to exist, it is inherently, fundamentally eternal. It's infinite because that's what it does, right? So thinking about that, what that means is linear time is obviously an illusion, and the reality is that all time exists at once. They are just different dimensions. I happen to personally believe that every moment in time is its own dimension of space, and that we're just moving through multiple dimensions to create this idea of linearity. So why I set that up and why that's important is because when you're thinking of your ancestors, you're thinking of somebody who still exists in some dimension of space and time and existence. So you are sending out because humans are batteries, right? Like we literally are conductors of energy. So when you are conducting energy with that person's specific resonance or frequency, then of course they're getting something, because existence is nature is to exist. We all are existence. Therefore, we are all the same thing. And therefore, there's not that much space in between us as we have the illusion of seeing in third dimensional reality. So I would say that when you call upon your ancestors, the ones that are sensitive, especially the older ones who were still very much connected to their nature energy, we could even call it creature energy, their symbiotic energy, before all the intellectualization and compartmentalization, there's certainly many of them are as aware of us as we are of them. I'm certain of that. But when we get into the several centuries of humanity where people were basically doing fuck all to understand each other, then we're dealing with a different kind of awareness, which isn't to say that they don't hear you, right? Because there are a lot of things that people witness and see and experience that they're never going to admit to anybody that they go to the grave with that might have indicated that they're a very sensitive person. So because we all still exist and we're all still choosing how to engage, if you can try to think of it as like several points, like let's say several points, spheres of light, pinpoints of light in space, you know, the way the sky looks when you look at it. So each star, let's say when you're in your pitch darkness, each star to me is representative in the way that I'm thinking about existence as one of the many perspectives of existence. And so I don't think that it's impossible that they hear you and you hear them. But that doesn't mean that it's going to show up in a way that you're like, oh, that's my grandma. Sometimes you'll be thinking about something and it will, in some sort of roundabout way, lead you to the idea of thinking about your grandma. And that's all that you need. You don't need to get in through the most literal translation of the thing. They need to get you there, spirit especially, which can include any number of beings, which I'll talk about in a minute. But if we're talking about ancestral energy, it can include any number of... Oh, that message went away. Any number of... Oh, right. Any number of things that will just get you to where you need to get. So they will trick you into knowing what you need to know through the ways that you can't block. So usually they're going to do it in some way that you can't expect. For instance, one of my first most mystical physical experiences was after I graduated from college in 2009, 2008, we had just had the crash. I moved back to LA where I'm from. I couldn't find a job for a year. I went to the bar up the street from my house, which I literally grew up around, and there were 40 people in line for a cocktail and waiter job. So I was just like, oh wow, I was devastated. But also my family was putting a lot of capitalistic pressure on me because they didn't know that, they didn't believe, and they didn't know enough to believe that I was doing everything that I needed to do, including taking a job that would make me miserable in order to make money as proof that I was willing to support myself. So I was just, I was going through it. And I remember getting a canvassing job, one of the roughest motherfucking jobs in the universe. That is a thankless motherfucking job. And so I got a canvassing job. The person who I was canvassing with had stolen some shit from me, almost like the second day of my job, but I had gone to the job with them, so I couldn't call them out or they could just fucking leave me. So I quit that job. And then I get a call like a week later from a recruiter from Monster.com, a recruiter who found my resume on Monster.com, which I had put up like 3 years ago on like 2006 internet. So that shit was lost in the sauce. Found me, called me like on a Wednesday, had me in on an interview on a Friday, had me back in for testing on Monday, had me placed by Friday on a 5-month temp. That temp turned into a 7-year job. But before it became the 7-year job, and I was coming to the end of this temp period, and my family was putting back on this pressure, not everybody in the family, but many, in the only way that they knew how, which is to be like, do something, do anything, be desperate, because that's how they were feeling about me. I was walking home the same way that I walked home every day from the job, which was like the back way. And I said, existence, if you have a message for me about what I need to know, I don't care how it comes. I really don't care how it comes. Me, myself, I don't discriminate against the truth. I don't insist that the truth come to me in a way that I recognize, because then I will never learn anything fucking new. So I suspend my disbelief all the time. So I was like, make it crazy, make it not crazy, but make it clear. It was like, make it clear that the message is for me. So I don't know in that time from when I walked home, I don't really remember the number of days in between, but I was walking home. I saw a murder of crows, which at that time was about 40 crows sit all in the middle of the street. I looked because crows are smart birds. I knew that much. And there was no food in the street, so I thought that was odd. Then a car came, like it was a back street. So a car came, all the crows lifted when the car came, and then they went down again after the car left. Again, I didn't see any food after they all lifted. And they were just cawing the whole time I was walking by. And as I walked by that, like a half an hour later, just thinking about that, I was like, that was really weird. So I just looked up crow medicine, and that led me to my first spirit teacher. By the way, I have a dog that's probably about to lose his mind. So don't trip when you hear a big-ass dog try and bark a man down, if that happens. So that's all to say that that's the way they could get me the message. I didn't need something literal. I needed something unusual to me so that I would follow up with myself knowing it was unusual to me. And that's one of many, many, many strange things that's happened to me since I've learned to suspend my disbelief and not insist that knowledge comes to me in a way I already recognize, which then keeps me limited in my understanding and my belief and in my ability, hey girl, hey, and in my ability to connect to whatever is trying to connect with me. Now, I want to say a little bit about vibrations, because I think that people have a lot of ideas about what kind of energy that they can attract. And I think that the idea is what solidifies what you attract. So when I say open to whatever you're open to, I'm not saying from your lowest humanity that you will attract the most fuck shit person. Oh, great. Excuse me. Just Ellie, not helping. Just go. Just thanks. So, thanks for your patience. Weird stuff happens to me all the time. I'm not sure I'm getting the message, though. That's a very funny follow-up. Weird shit is happening to me all the time, but I'm not getting the message. You're clearly getting the message because you know weird shit is happening to you all the time. You're trying to intellectualize and understand the message. I would say look for synchronicity. Follow the synchronicity, and also be explicit with your guides. Be like, please make things obvious to me, repetitive to me, and please deliver information to me in this way. That's an amen from the dog. Yes. So give me information in this way. For instance, if you don't remember your dreams, don't be like, I want a lucid dream to know my guides. How the fuck is that going to work for you when you don't even do it when you're not trying? So you need to do something that, for instance, if you're really sensitive to sound, then ask for it via sound. Because if you're going to notice that especially, then that will be amplified. Or if you're somebody who really recognizes smells, meaning like, oh, that person smelled like the person I walked past when I was 10, or that smelled like my grandma, or whatever that looks like. So you need to, in that sense, trust the message and not need it to immediately reveal itself to you as like clouds parting the universe. It's not that it happens that quickly ever. But you do know you're getting the messages, or else you wouldn't have that. You can't think about what you don't have knowledge of. You can't be of what you aren't, right? Something can't come from nothing. Oh, good. See? A dream triggered, so that's good. But something can't come from nothing. So if you don't actually have an idea, you can't consider it. So when people are like, I don't know about this thing I'm thinking about, I'm like, you need to really clean up that language because you're confusing yourself with that language. That language will have you confused, being like, I'm getting things, but I'm not getting things. Trust that you're getting things. And then start to investigate by taking in the data and knowing you're getting things, exactly what you're getting. Don't think that you need to get the thing and know what the thing is at the same time. Does that even happen with your own life? You get the thing from a baby. If you die and know what it is, you're good, right? You've done good. So you have to have that kind of patience. Any other questions? If there are not any other questions, what I'll say about attracting energy is when I'm talking to you about attracting energy as guides, I'm never speaking about your low vibrational self and what that might attract. When I'm talking to you about attracting your guides, I'm talking to you about looking at your highest intent, invoking that, and knowing that's all you're going to attract. And that just because something scares you from an evolutionary standpoint where you're like, humanity says this isn't normal, and then you have a moment where you're freaking out, don't make that into the devil. Being like, oh, I saw an energy from the side of my eye. Was it a demon? Like, why do we need to go to the most negative common denominating motherfucking thing? So I never encourage people to assume the worst, especially when working with spirit. Why would you assume the worst unless you want to work with the worst spirits? Don't call on them. So when you're working with energy and say you hear a voice in your ear and then you're like, who was that? Just because they're not like, Tony, doesn't mean you have to assume it is a negative entity trying to get at your ass. It's just somebody who's trying to get your attention. And the more that you don't clam up when getting that attention, the better conduit that you are. You know, when a machine seizes up, it stops functioning. So you need to know that humanity is its own technology. Your body is a technology. And when you're getting a message and then you're like, that stops the machine. And then you're not going to know what you got because you stopped getting it. So also trust that spirit has a long form type of conversation because they are aware that we're infinite and eternal. So they're not in any motherfucking rush. They know nothing is going to be left out in existence because it's inclusive of everything that exists. And whatever doesn't exist has nothing to do with existence, and therefore it has no problem with that. So you're just in denial. I don't think you're in denial. I think that you are negating yourself. If you were in denial, you wouldn't acknowledge it at all. So that's another thing. You need to maybe, and I use this very often, so don't think I'm just in my etymology dictionary. I look at dictionary.com's app all the time. I don't pay for it. It's a good app. The ads are annoying, but I'm checking words all the time. When that motherfucker came through my comments and was like, you're angry, I was like, I've done the etymology on that, but I'm going to have to recheck that motherfucker. And that's what I did. And so that helps me know whether I know what I am doing. Because when I look at angry, I'm like, am I tight? Am I in some sort of constricting situation? I know you do, which is why I'm going to call you out right now. I told you to set up the altar, but you front on the altar. So another thing that would help you, I guess that's why they brought that up. Thanks, cousin. So an altar space, or at least a space in your home that's clear of all the other shit that you do, so that you could just sit there and be like, this is going to be my spiritual corner. You have your little decks there. Hey, Threads of Fate. Threads of Fate, product placement. You have your other little decks. You know, I got the best of both worlds, right? I got the African American. I got the Sorcerer's Tarot, which is basically like Celtic and pagan. But I travel all the time because part of my work is, as an artist, is having 7 other jobs. So I'm constantly traveling. And I travel with my altar in this bag. It's a toiletries bag. I bought it at CVS. Hi, girl. So in this toiletries bag, I have my Tao Te Ching Oracle. I have my cleansing powders, I have my tinctures, I have my pendulum, I have all the things I need, even sometimes mini candles. And I carry a mat myself as a representative altar because I don't always have the space. I don't know where that gold glitter on my face came from, but I don't always have the space to construct, a whole monument. So I take it with. But if you don't have a space in your house that feels clear of all the other shit that you're dealing with all the time, I don't really know how, other than tuning within, which you should always be doing, that you're really going to know what is and isn't from spirit. I happen to be a Pisces with my Mercury and my Neptune in Pisces and my Venus in Aquarius. So a bitch is inquisitive. And for that reason, I am constantly contemplating my existence. And I am constantly being like, is that really what it, and who am I with myself? So I have a lot of moments for spirit to interject. I'm not always drowning out my reality with images from a television or music that has words. I listen to a lot of binaural beats and gamma frequencies, and I listen to a lot of classical music without words. And so even if I'm traveling, I'm leaving space for my thoughts to work. I'm not having the radio on. Even when the television's on, I mute it during commercials. I'm constantly giving my brain breaks from just constant free streamings of data in order to know what's coming to me. That being said, I think that one of the things that's most helpful to me, and this is just something you're going to have to develop if you don't have it, is a fundamental trust in that OG motherfucking called existence. So I am not through it. Hey. So I'm not here in existence doubting what I'm getting, right? And what I mean by that doesn't mean I don't have questions about what I'm getting. Hi. I don't have questions about I have questions about what I'm getting, but I'm not denying that I'm getting something, and I'm not denying that I'm getting questions about that either. So I think that if you don't leave room for that because you're trying to intellectually get your ass around existence, which is impossible because it's all that is. So when you are just like, oh, let me chill the fuck back and realize that existence is OG and it had made everything I know that is possible. And thus, having made me not even the motherfucking first human of the planet, it must have some awareness, some consciousness, some cosmic ability to understand what's going on with me because it made me, it is me. And so, why doubt how and what made you? And I don't mean that on the parental minute. I mean like the fact that you exist. Why not trust existence since you have no other fucking choice? And that, well, you have a choice. You can use existence to not trust existence. But I do think that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result, which is I want to trust myself, I want to trust myself, I want to trust myself, but I won't do it. That shit is wild. Don't do that to yourself. You better trust some shit because at least when you're not trusting shit, you're trusting in not trusting shit. So you're always doing something. Might as well choose some things that you prefer and might as well explore existence enough to know what you prefer and differentiate things, not in a judgmental way, but just being like, thank you, no thank you, thank you, no thank you, don't know yet, so a no thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, don't know yet, no thank you, no, hell no, hell no, thank. That's how it works. It's not this or that. It's this and then that and this and then that and this and that for fucking ever. Because the nature of existence is to exist. And since we exist, that's all we can ever do, which means existence is infinite and eternal. And it's never getting rid of you. Yeah, if you're going to trust something, trust yourself. But trust yourself in that you are an extension of existence. I don't distrust anything. It doesn't mean that I prefer certain people's characters. It doesn't mean that I'm going to go walk in the street not knowing where the fuck I am. But if something happens to me, knowing that existence is OG, I know that shit happened for me, not just to me. If you think that shit is happening to you and not for you, you don't trust existence. And if you don't trust existence, you are going to walk on eggshells through existence because that's all there is. How are you not going to trust all there is? And also, how are you going to put a qualification on all that is when you're a part of that, knowing that somebody is putting a qualification on you? So you don't just go, I'm going to invalidate that motherfucker unless you want to be invalidated back. Because if you're going to do it with one thing and everything is the one thing, then anything is fair game from that perspective. So ultimately, yes, having dignity and having self-love for yourself is absolutely necessary. But many people can also learn that by loving the people around them, seeing their reflection in the love of that person back to them, and then remembering through that love how to love themselves. Because a lot of people have negative ideas about themselves, and they have negative ideas about the world. That's why I love Taoism. It says, do you think you can improve the world? Oh, okay, motherfucker. You new ass, not billionaire-old ass, no one ass, motherfucker. You gonna do it, but existence can't do it. The world is perfect. What is imperfect is our acceptance of the fact that the world is perfect. So we have to fix what our perspective is, because that's where you live. You wake up in the perspective, you die from the perspective. Everybody's version in my life of themselves is my perspective's version of them. The more honest I am, the more accepting I am of existence, the more able I am to get my perspective in alignment with who that person actually is to themselves. The more neutrality I have, the less I insist that that person be somebody else, the more I can know them. The more I can know them, the more I can know myself, not denying any part of humanity as if I'm not human, not denying any part of existence as if I don't exist. So you really do have to stop giving the kind of fucks that hurt, you know? Like, you got to give the kind of fucks that help, not the kind of fucks that hurt. And it doesn't mean that you won't stumble and fall, but you need to always have your eye on the prize of, I trust you, existence, you that OG motherfucker. And I'm out here in you as you, being life. So I'm not going to negate myself by not using me to be alive. How do you stay in touch with your body to feed your intuition? How do you stay in touch with your body to feed your intuition? That's an interesting question because it comes in backwards. You don't use your body to feed your intuition. You use your intuition to feed your body. So you could have negative intuition, right? Like, I don't trust that motherfucker. That motherfucker's out to get me. That person's wrong. That's intuition. It's just negative intuition. It might become paranoid, delusional intuition, and then it doesn't serve you. But what it will do is metastasize in your body and make your body heavier, more tired. So when you don't let things flow through you, when you're not willing to address yourself, address your issues, deal with your emotional intelligence, deal with your logistical, analytical intelligence, and deal with your bodily intelligence, meaning, you know, for instance, my body does not like beeswax. I have tried organic beeswax, the happy beeswax, the happiest bees in the galaxy beeswax. My body don't like it. So I can't use that shit. End of story. Bodily intelligence, thank you for the delivered message. Let me not take that personally and be like, oh God, but why? I love bees. Like, fuck it. I can't use the shits. So it's gone. Bye. End of that story. My body just cleared up because now I'm not resisting it with my intellectual mind. I'm not polluting it by insisting it has products that it shouldn't have on it. By the way, I still do this in other ways, but a bitch is working. And so for that reason, I am clearing my body of all the other things that would stop it up, so that then my intuition is it's not coming through me better. I'm just hearing it better. No, that's not your body. That's not what your body told you. That's what your mind told you. Your body wants to be okay. So if you don't ever eat pizza and ice cream, or if you're not allergic to dairy and you can just eat pizza and ice cream all day, because some people can do that, then go about that. But don't accuse your body of shit that your mind is doing. Your mind just said that to your body. The fuck? Bye. You do not pass go on that. You decided to have ice cream and pizza. If that's what you want to eat, fine. Why you want to eat that, why you need to comfort yourself with food that then you have a negative association with, or maybe it just makes you feel negative because it's not good for your body. What hole you're trying to fill with the food, that's where that motherfucking work is. It's not on the pizza and the ice cream. I once saw some truck, and in LA there's all kinds of trifling shit. I once saw a truck that said guilt-free water. And I was like, bitch, what the fuck? Water don't have no guilt. Water don't have no enemies, bitch. That's your guilt. And you're projecting it on the water. So let pizza be pizza. Let ice cream be ice cream. And you need to figure out what your relationship should actually be with those things instead of making them evil. Not like evil pizza motherfucker out here. Like Jabba the Hutt. Is your pizza Jabba the Hutt? Because that would be amazing. Anyways, are you the one lady who I know I met you that asked that question, and I don't know if you have trickster ancestors, but they're like laughing hysterically over here. They're like, you know better than that. Don't give yourself consolation prize negative beliefs and then be petting them like the Inspector Gadget cat. Like, I just can't do better. I just don't know how to get me in line. I just like to talk about what I don't know instead of doing something. So do something. I say that with love. I know you know that. Any other questions? Because I think the live is getting to about a half an hour and 40 minutes. And so I don't, discourage people from actually watching this whole thing. I will probably try and wrap it up in the next 3 minutes. But if you have any questions about your spirit guides, oh, by the way, I should have to say this. So the spirit guide came to me earlier named Hortense. Well, okay, I was singing Ella Fitzgerald. Had nothing to do with the word Hortensia. I was singing, there is someone I am longing to see. I hope that he turns out to be. I was singing that in a lower chord, but that's the way that shit came out just now. And then all of a sudden I was just doing and I said Hortensia. Bye, have a good time at school. And then I said Hortensia. And then I was like, why the fuck did I say that? Now, knowing spirit shows up in the unusual ways, I looked up the origin word of Hortense, which is what it is in English. Hortensia being what it was in Latin. It means garden, okay? So then I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I was shuffling my Tarot Gemstones and Crystals deck by Helmut Hoffman. And if you find it online, the box looks whack as fuck, but these cards are the business. So I was shuffling the cards. 3 cards fell out. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm happy that you needed that and that you got what you needed. So I was shuffling. 3 cards fell out. I used my pendulum to decide the card. So the card for the person with the guide, Hortensia, it's a shape-shifting Fae energy. It doesn't have a particular standing sex. But the card you pulled was the 3 of Cups reversed for this person. And it's pink, it's coral in this deck, right? What depends on the request. What's the request? So for this person, who should probably have some sort of green finger, hand, that could mean cooking herbs, gardening, could mean picking up debris from the river. It could mean any sort of natural thing like that has to do with the earth, particularly though gardening. Hortensia and Hortense wants you to start doing more of what excites you because this card came up reversed. Thanks. Oh, I love that, Lola. I'm still waiting on what the tangible request is. You can use the little question mark box and I will promise to keep it anonymous if you just want to tell me yourself. Because of course your spirit guides can help with requests, but it depends on the request, it depends on the spirit guide, and it depends on your determination and your ability to accept the answer even if you don't like how it shows up. So maybe that answers your question. This person who has Hortensia, they're like, you're not doing your joy and you're blocking your blessings, so don't do that, okay? Don't block your blessings. you better get to the garden or to the herb making or to the tincture making or to the body oil making or to the whatever that you do that has to do with Fae, Hortensia, and the Three of Cups reversed, which is also pink coral. So that's where the water element is coming in. It's something with water, something with earth, but obviously they are friends. We're all friends, guys. So if no one else has a question, speed up permits. Yes, there is stuff you can do. There is stuff you can do. I'll text you because I know who you are. There's definitely something you could do, particularly ritual in the space to clear blockages. I know who to send you to. You will, and it will work. Okay. This question. He needs a break. He needs a break from something. So invite him away from where he is and help him clear out all the narratives. There's a lot of narratives. There's a story being created about this person and who he thinks he is in relationship to others, particularly that environment. That environment is a very heavy environment. So if they still live, or if he still lives where I think he lives, but they're saying he needs a break. He's creating a negative narrative that's becoming a story. Sometimes we do this and it's a sentence on a page. When we get good, it could be a word at a time. If we let it go too far, it becomes a chapter. And if we write the whole motherfucking book, end of story. So let him break that narrative up, even if that means paying for the ticket or sweetening that temptation or offering to send that person somewhere else in order to help them clear their mind away from where they are if they don't want to come to where you are. I am speaking to somebody in particular who asked me a question and I didn't want to put their question on blast about what I was just saying about the sun. So if you didn't ask me the question about the sun, the message isn't for you unless that shit resonated. Hey, unless that message resonated, that it's not for you. But if it did, then thank you to the person who anonymously asked that question, that they're serving you too with that question about your sun. Your sun needs a break. It's creating negative narratives. Right now it's like a page. It could become a chapter and then it could become a book or it could become several volumes. So we need to break up that energy and show them that the world is big, certainly bigger than their ideas. Any other questions? My cousin said, don't leave. You're so nice. Okay, well, I might just stay on an hour if there are more questions, but right now we're at 45 minutes. You guys are in here. You can ask your question anonymously by the comment box. There's the question mark box. If you write your question in there, only I get it, and I don't have to repost it. This has been the best part of your day. I'm so happy. Wait till you guys see the beginning when no one was in here and I was just talking to myself, because I'm sure that'll be interesting. Anybody else? Come on, questions. Welcome. You just made it in time. I'm taking last minute questions. Oh, yes. The reverse Three of Cups, I was speaking to the fact that earlier today, I had some energy come to me and tell me its name was Hortense or Hortensia or even Horton. I said, if you're connected to Horton, here's a who. It's also for you. If you're connected to gardening, it's also for you because Hortensia means gardening in its original language. In fact, it even means something else, which is slipping my mind right now. But I then shuffled when I had this guidance and I pulled the Three of Cups reverse for this person who has this guide. Elemental energies, Fae energies work with a lot of people. So it's not necessarily a message for one person. So if that message resonates with you, then accept it. And again, this is how spirit works. It's going to come through the easiest way imaginable, because if maybe I told you this information, you had a negative response. But because I said it to someone you didn't know who, you were like, oh, let me think about myself. Like, is that who I am? And so if it's being useful to you, use it. Cords. Well, I'm happy to kind of end on this question if it ends up being my last question, because I think that I have an unusual perspective from the rest of people, which is there's no such thing as a cord in the way that it's meant by people. There is only the constant reassociating with the path that they are doing themselves actively. The motherfucker who you think the cord is attached to has their own goddamn ideas and their own goddamn ideas about cords that might have nothing to do with you at all. Which isn't to say that it doesn't have to do with you, because a lot of people are usually in denial. But you're building the cord from the present. You're building it with your, oh, I'm still attached to this motherfucker because I want to be. So, I would say, start living your passion. Make your life somewhere that you want to be, that you want to inhabit, that you love, so you ain't worried about nobody else. I mean, that's the best way. That's my opinion. Also, cords exist in the sense that existence is one thing. So, we all corded? I mean, in that sense, if you mean like, how do I help the world realize it's connected? That kind of courting, then I would say live to your highest excitement to the best of your ability, taking it as far as you can go with zero insistence on the outcome and maintaining a positive state no matter what takes place. This is Bashar's messaging, by the way. It's called the formula. Maintain a positive state no matter what takes place, and trust OG motherfucker existence that if something takes place, it's for your highest good, even if it wasn't intended in that way by the person who sent you the message. I gave this example to somebody the other day. Someone can walk by me and be like, nigger, wanting to fuck my day up. And I can be like, well, guess what, bitch? That word was made by white people for white people, so have it back, nigga yourself. And I just walk my ass off and go have a margarita. I don't have to have a bad day, bitch. I only have to let or not let that shit affect me. So that experience is fundamentally neutral in that it's made out of existence, giving me an opportunity to react in the way that I want to respond. I could go down to the nigger level and be like, oh, low is me, and I have to take on all the history of this shit. Or I could just be like, nah. So that's what I do. I hope that helps. I hope you watch from the beginning too. I don't know who offered to be in my live, but that's not what we're doing here. But thank you for that excitement, or if that misbuttoning, if that was what you did. So, we got 12 minutes. I will literally stay on here until 8. If we have more questions, any questions, it doesn't have to be like spirit questions. It could be like, yo, this thought is in my mind on repeat and I really want to know how to get it off my back. Or my favorite questions, how do I find my twin flame? Or, any of those, because I have other fun answers, just like my cord answer. It ain't gonna be what you think, but we can still have that answer. So, ask away. Did you just leave the live to go watch the beginning? My cousin is over here checking on me. I love that kind of research. This just runs in the family, we do the research. So, yes, I have actually, I'm gonna finish this live telling you guys kind of a crazy story, about me that I don't tell a lot of people for the exact reason you're gonna know when I tell it. So congratulations to everybody who makes it to this point in the video in the future, because this is basically a secret. So if you in the last you winning. If you in the last 15 minutes of this bitch. So, confession. And I'm not really concerned with whether you believe this or not, because I know what I know. However, I will share it with you. And if you want to ask me questions about it, I'm open to that, meaning when the live is done, because I'm not going to necessarily take them in here. Sorry. Cool. More important question than what my story is. We'll get to that. Don't worry. I won't rob you of my story. I would create a altar with a white cloth or wood base. Or white paint, whatever. I would put a white candle. I would put a glass of water that I would change every 7 days at least, or any day that I feel funky. I would put anything that you know belonged to her, that you have her, or that reminds you of her. That can be something that she actually owned on the altar. It could also be her favorite kind of plant, or her favorite kind of music, or her favorite kind of stone. You can also cook her favorite meal and leave it there. I would put a potted plant or flowers, or even what, for some reason they're giving me palm tree. Maybe there's some like tall plant she liked, some sort of plant she liked. You can put that there. Palm coconuts. I don't know why they're saying that. So, I would have all those things in a place in my home that I actually wanted to go. And it would just be for that purpose. Usually I use a little table or a cupboard or a section of the room. And I would go there, in your case, every night for at least 7 days in a row. And then at least once every 7 days, and speak to her like she's alive. That's what I would do. And then see what comes. That is my advice to you. So, my secret story. I got a lot of secrets, which is just to say I have a lot of shit that has happened to me in my life, and I haven't been able to tell everybody about it. So, in 2012, I was leaving the homie Shira's house with my sister from another Mistar, Onyi. And we were both singing vocals for... Maybe we'll see them, cousin, when I'm in New York this week. But we were recording music on her album. And when we left, we basically got in the car on the street, right? It was a side street, and then there was like a main street up ahead. And we were just chatting, whatever. And when he gets in the car, I get in the passenger seat, because if you know me, you know I don't drive. And I was looking at my phone, and I looked up, and 40 feet in front of the car was a UFO. Now, what did it look like? No, it didn't look like a saucer. No, it didn't. It looked like a cylinder, like this, with 2 Saturn rings around it. One Saturn ring like this when I first looked up, the other one like this inside of it, but they went in and out of outside of each other like a butterfly around this cylinder. And on the sides, there were some other spinny ass fucking things going on. So, me, being myself, said, Onyi, what the fuck is that? Onyi looked up for all of 2 motherfucking seconds, looked down, and said, I don't know. I grabbed Onyi and said, Onyi, what the fuck is that? And she said, I don't want to know. And by the way, she does not remember this encounter, so she really didn't want to fucking know. And I was like, bitch, I gotta know. So I got out of the car, because when you see 40 feet in front of you, the shape of something that you have never conceived of prior to and have never seen afterwards, and you want to know some shit, you got to go to the source. So I got out of the car. I literally got out of the car. And again, I don't care if you don't believe me. I'm just sharing with you something that happened to me. This was in Santa Monica off of Cloverfield. It was in the middle of the motherfucking public street. I walked out. I walked towards it because I'm that kind of bitch. And it went up into the sky and went back like this, and then went like this, and then went like this. And from that angle, it did look like a UFO. That's a stereotype, except it had a rainbow as if it was pride thing going around it. I literally, and there is evidence of this, okay? Even Shira came out for this. You can ask her too. I was yelling because I need to know if I am seeing what I'm seeing, and my only motherfucking second pair of eyes was not willing to see the shit. So I walked out there. As soon as it went up and went back a little bit and there was nothing in the street, Onyi got out the car, but I had already been up and like, I was just yelling. I was like, there's a UFO. There's a UFO out here. There's a UFO because I needed a witness, okay? And what I can say is people did come out into the street. By the time they came out to the street, most people who came out into the street also saw the ship going like this, when it came forward again, because it did, those motherfuckers turned the UFO that originally looked like this with some rings around it, right? Being like, you see how that's working in the camera? Like that. And then it went up and looked like a typical flying saucer, right? Like, wait, that looked better. Like, fuck it. Like this. And then when it came forward, it was a plane. Okay? It was one of those mini airplanes that had a scrolling board underneath it. And the scrolling board didn't go from the belly of the plane to the other belly of the plane like it does on actual planes. It went from the tip of one wing to the tip of the other wing across the whole plane. There was a scrolling board. And it said some shit like, Crystal Show at the Civic Center and rainbow pride letters. So I will end the story by saying, no, I didn't get abducted. That's not where this story is going. Or if I did, they didn't give me that memory to have. But what happened was I went home, basically forgot about it, because when you see something that shocking to your consciousness, you can't just be like, yeah, I'm sure about that. No, I wasn't sure about shit. So I went home, forgot about it, woke up the next day like, did that happen to me? So instead of being like, let me find that UFO, I was like, let me find what planes look like that have a scrolling thing on the bottom of them that are advertising in Santa Monica in 2012 that there's a gem show. Now, the Civic Center was still open at that time. So I did find these planes, right? But their technology was so, I know they froze time because it is not even 8 o'clock yet. So this just so I could tell this motherfucking story. So the technology that was actually available, that they actually should have used but didn't use because aliens are so advanced that they're like, I don't even know how to be basic. Sorry. So this plane looked like, a puddle jumper, essentially. And it had only, not in the wings, but only on the belly of the plane, it had a scrolling board across. And the only type that they had in the year 2012 that the city of Santa Monica was using had green lettering. And it looked like old computers. When you played Frogger? It looked like that. That's how the lettering looked. That was the most that they were going to afford because the city of Santa Monica is cheap. And so I knew, okay, what you would think, bitch, you saw a UFO, so wouldn't you know from that? But I knew by the verification that not even the technology that was supposed to make sense made sense, that I saw what I saw. So, in conclusion, what I will say is the fact that someone says there are extraterrestrials would actually just mean an off-planet sentient being. But there's also interdimensional things, because, right, we are dealing with multiple dimensions of Earth, so there are like parallel Earths. And then there are interdimensional beings, okay? So, don't trip, Crip. If you've seen a UFO, you've seen it. And now you know my story that was a secret until I decided to release it to the gram. Cue people who want to think whatever they want to think. Again, like I said, I don't give a fuck. Because I know what I saw. Because I can't make shit up that I don't know how to make up. How about that? One of our aunt, not going to say which one for privacy, but she said that she saw an alien sitting on the train across from her and they revealed themselves to her. I bet I know who you're talking about too. We have a lot of weird aunties, okay? We come from a family of strangers. So, it is literally 7:59. I don't even know how we got all that done in that time because Spirit is looking out for you. They literally froze time. So I had to tell my alien story. You guys now know that I not only volunteer professionally for Bashar, but I have had my own extraterrestrial UFO encounters that have nothing to do with Bashar. And I, too, believe we are not alone, okay? In fact, I know. So, thank you for being on my live, my first ever channeling. I'm going to try and make these regular. I'm really grateful for everyone who came and stayed. I will be live again after June because I have to go to New York for World Pride, announcing that tomorrow, and I will be back in this home in the beginning of July, so I'll probably do another one either the first or second week of July. If you've been here with me, my gratitude unto you. I hope I answered your questions. If I didn't, check me next time. If you're a homie and you just came through for the homie tip, love you. Have a good day. I only have 27 seconds remaining. So I'm gonna use it up. I'm gonna use it up by saying bye to each of you. Bye. And other songs. Oh, thank you. Oh, hearts. Bye. You're welcome. Ciao. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.